Okay, welcome to the Critical Angle. I'm here with Itay Ariel, one of my great friends in the industry. He's also a legend, known by many. He sells diamonds and he sells a lot of them. How are you, Itay?
I'm fine, Rick. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now you're coming to us from Canada, live from Vancouver.
That is correct.
How's everything in Canada these days?
Canada, Canada is a beautiful country. We got ocean, we got mountains, we got free healthcare. It's a good place.
And you're in Vancouver, which from everything I hear is an awesome city.
I am, yeah, and we've had really great weather this summer, so we're happy to be here.
That's awesome. Well, Itay and I have known each other for quite some time. We were trying to figure out how long we've known each other. I think we think between 7 and 10 years. And the first time I met you was I was looking for diamonds and I wanted a specific cut. And I had gone to everyone saying, I need this cut. And I got turned down from everyone. And I showed up to you and you said, I can do it. And I was like, wait, what? And that's what I like about you. You've always had that attitude where you take a problem and you're very solution oriented, which is, I think, something that we can learn just from the way that you lead. But can you talk a little bit about that, your style of leadership?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, with respect to the problem that you were having, I mean, we try and not swim where everyone is at, and we try and really focus our attention on areas of the marketplace where we can add value, and that we are sort of masters in that categories. And one of those things that you came to talk to us about was you were looking for very well made, in fact the top of the cut standards for diamond grading. And that is something that we've always focused on. Instead of just cutting diamonds that were very good standards or lower, we always focused on trying to deliver the very, very best that we can with respect to the material.
And can you tell us a little bit about how you got in this business?
Yeah, so the diamond world, as you know, is a very small and kind of well kept secret. There's about 50 odd families that are in the diamond business at our level. It is a family business. The business started in the 1940s, so we're approaching 80 years.
Wow.
In Canada, we're here since 1982, so we're 40 years this year.
Congrats.
In Canada. Thank you. I know that Skis Jewelers has a long history as well. How many years have you guys been in business?
We're 100 this year. We hit the triple digits.
Yeah, we're just a youngin compared to you.
We're just happy to be in business, Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
So, it was, the business was in the family for a while. After university, I really wanted to sort of make sure I can get a job on my own, and I worked for Procter and Gamble up in Canada as a product manager for Tide.
Oh wow,
which was a unique experience. Yeah,
I've noticed you always smell really good, so that probably explains that.
And always very clean. And then after some time with them, I moved into working in the diamond field.
Nice. And where did you start out in the diamond field? Did you start out just like sales or retail?
Yeah, no. So I actually went and spent the first while I was in the factories. Like, I learned the trade, like with the actual material, to understand, what it takes to sort of bring these diamonds to life and appreciate the craftsmanship, because that's really what it is. I think that if people understood the amount of attention to detail and craftsmanship and years of experience to be able to bring these diamonds to the quality that they're used to or that people take for granted, they wouldn't anymore. One of the things that we've always tried to do, because we work very closely with the mines up in Canada, is that we bring people up to the north, to like consumers through our distribution, through our retailers, and to show them the amount of effort that goes towards bringing these diamonds from the ground. After the excavation and bringing these diamonds from from the earth and how much work goes into manufacturing them and the technical expertise that's required. No one's going to try and negotiate 10% or 15% at the store level. They just really appreciate the art of what they're able to get in their hands.
And I think that oftentimes consumer will think, well, diamonds are just everywhere. You hear some of these things that somebody will post one YouTube video, and some guy who's from Hollywood does 20 minutes of research and does a YouTube video, and it goes viral. And next thing you know, everyone's telling you that diamonds are everywhere you go. There's so many diamonds, and they're all hoarding them. And somehow there's this group of hoarders that release diamonds little by little. Have you heard any of those types of things through the years?
I've heard the nonsense of it, and fact is, and this is factual information. Diamonds that are sold to us come out of the ground 30 to 45 days before they're offered for sale, and then those diamonds take us 60 to 90 days to manufacture them in our state-of-the-art facilities, and then they're offered for sale to the likes of our retailers. And so the supply chain is actually very, very quick in comparison to what consumers may actually think.
How is the supply chain, speaking of supply chain, how has that been affected for your business? Has that affected you at all? I know the Alrosa mine is 30-ish% of the world's diamonds, was from what I've heard, and also units and value. I think 30%, which is a big number. How has everything affected you?
I mean, we are a Canadian manufacturer. We are audited by KPMG and are sort of hold ourselves to the highest standards with respect to integrity of our work. So the quality of our staff, our standards are the best in the industry. I think that it's quite unfortunate with what's going on in Russia because, from a human aspect, we did business with them before, and there are people that, have families and they don't have a job now. And these are good people who are not supportive of what's going on in Russia. And it's a shame. It really is a shame because it's affecting people on a individual level. And I don't like to see people suffer from both sides of the Russian-Ukrainian situation. Saying that, we haven't purchased any Russian diamonds because we're mandated not to since February of 2022. I think that there are shortages in the marketplace because yes, Russian goods are very high quality product that used to enter the marketplace. And so from a supply side for us, it's been a bit more challenging, but fortunately we are able to manage through it. The circumstance as of COVID is a different one. Shipping lanes are taking longer. In fact, double, if not triple the time frame. We used to have shipments come in from our factories to take 2 or 3 days. Today they're 10 to 14 days. Also, some of our equipment is automated robotic equipment, and where it used to take us a few days to bring in parts, now you're talking about months and months of lead time where machines can be idle. And so in that respect, it seems like the world is turning a little bit slower than it was in the past.
Yeah, that is it's a fascinating time to be in the industry. It seems like a very I don't know, a time where people are going to test new things and new ideas, because really, from everyone I talk to, you kind of have to have a new playbook because everything has changed. I mean, COVID has changed everything, and we're not going back on some levels, from some of the things that we've learned over the past couple of years and the habits we have, even digital habits and things like that. So it's kind of a new playbook, but then of course the old rules always apply. The simple, straightforward rules of business.
I think that if your business is focused around providing value to your customers, whether it's B2B or B2C, and your business is, relationship driven and not transactionally driven, and you are there for the long term, and you are able to cater to the changing needs of your audience, then you'll do just fine. I mean, when I say audience, it's not only your customer, even though he's probably your most important component of your business, but it's your staff as well. COVID has changed that. Staffing needs have changed. People's flexibility and timing has changed. It's but if you focus on, in my mind, if you focus on how do we add value to these people's lives, then that's where the real magic is.
Yeah, that is genius. And it's interesting when you talk to some of the best leaders around. It's sometimes the simplest principles that just they can guide you through tough times. If you keep those simple principles like you have, that's neat. I was talking with another big leader, and he looked at me and he goes, "It's common sense, Rick." And sometimes it's just the simple things, like you're saying, how you adding value to a customer. I mean, that's so simple, but it's needed right now.
To get
Sorry, go ahead.
that, no, I was going to say, to get that, you have to have moments of quiet. To get that, you have to be able to, step back and take a look at your business from a different perspective. And sometimes it's not easy, right? A lot of us live in that box of, very urgent, not important tasks to do on a daily basis, instead of the, very important, not urgent stuff to do. And sometimes you have to, well, in sort of critical periods in life, such as what happened with COVID, you really needed to, take a step back and see exactly, how to chart the path forward.
Yeah, that's profound, Itai. Somebody once said, 95% of what you do, 95% of what you do, anyone can do. 5% of what you can do, only you can do. And a lot of us focus on that 95% too much, like you're saying, and we miss the 5% that only we can do. Only we can encourage, say, an employee, and give them, new breath in their, in their lungs and stuff. Tell them they're doing a great job. That's the 5% we can do, or the 5% in terms of the top line management stuff. That's cool. So what do you have coming? What's on the horizon for you?
What is on the horizon for us? We have been asked by a certain group of individuals to set up a factory for them in Dubai, which is kind of interesting. So, they've identified that we have the best technical expertise in the world for a factory setup. So we've been asked to assist in that respect. That's a big undertaking.
Wow.
Big undertaking. There's that. We are reinvesting in our own facility in Toronto. So if you remember, we used to have a big facility in Sudbury next to the mine, in the Victor Diamond Mine. And unfortunately, that mine, after 12 years, was done. There was no more diamonds in the ground. And so we gave more than a year's notice for our staff to say, hey, this is what's coming down the pipeline. We don't need a factory in Sudbury if there's no diamonds coming out of that mine site. But after a year and a half of not having an operational facility in Canada, we made a decision that we actually need something very close, and that we are going to repivot and reopen a facility in Toronto. And in fact, half the staff that we had to let go in Sudbury said they'd be thrilled to move to Toronto and move their families to Toronto to continue to work with us. Yeah, that's great. I also think it's important to surround yourself with an executive team that their magic point is sort of your weaknesses, and not be threatened by the fact that they know better than you in certain circumstances because they're challenging your authority, but in fact learn to accept that there are smarter people in certain areas around them. And I think that's the way you build sort of this beautiful home where everyone is has the talent in every different field.
I got to be honest, you have some of the best sales reps. And as you're saying this, I was just thinking of Wendy, one of my favorites.
She's one of our superstars for sure.
Yeah, she's out of Chicago, or I think she's based out of Chicago, right?
Yeah, she lives in Chicago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I got to be honest, you've got a great team. I mean, I've met a lot of your team, and they're really fun to work with. So yeah,
Yeah,
hats off
I
to you in
agree.
that department.
I always thought that I was the best in sales until I built this team, and they do a much better job than I do. I just stay out of their way, and if I don't, they're quick to tell me to stay out of their way. So which is
I
fine.
I have the same type of team. If you have a team that
Yeah,
can tell you to get out of the way, then you know you're doing something right. Because I
yeah,
think that the
it's good.
biggest challenge in leadership is your ego. Sometimes is our own ego, and our ego
Always.
flares up, and you don't realize your ego is actually hurting your business growth. It's literally tripping you up or hurting your business growth or stopping you from hearing a good piece of advice or stopping you from being able to apply a good piece of advice. And so I'm constantly working on that every day. It's like slamming my ego down, like, get out of here. We're building
Yeah.
something.
Somebody told me the other day that if someone upsets you in the office, before replying, sit in silence and take 24 hours to reply to that comment and see if it's the same reply. And I was like, you know what? That's not bad advice. Instead of like getting triggered and automatically getting upset, you know, take it in, find the silence, and take the time to respond accordingly. And 9 times out of 10, your response the day after is going to be significantly different than your response at the moment.
And people don't understand that's the difference between a good leader and an excellent leader. Right there, I think. It's how you manage those little tiny moments. And the word that we forget in our society that I've really been focusing on lately is prudence. Prudence is making excellent decisions in day-to-day moments. And that's where I think sometimes as a leader we can get tripped up, like you're talking about being triggered, and then you kind of maybe you answer something too quick, and it lacks prudence. So
Yeah,
I
I
hear
like
what you're
that
saying.
word. I like that word a lot. I would use the I would also go back to the issue of respect. Not only respecting the people that work around you, but respecting the moment and respecting the opinion and having the wherewithal to actually, like you said, the prudence to think about it before you actually provide your feedback. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that we're in a society where people are moving too fast, and sometimes you just have to slow down to get to the right path forward.
Yeah, and another thing I've been kind of thinking through lately is the midterm to long term thinking. Most of us get stuck in the short term, and a lot of the decisions we make are short term, and those can be based on cash or it can be based on pressure. But you see the companies that have a lot of short term expectations, and it really hampers their ability to do well. I think in the mid to long term. Then you see companies that are more mid to long term focused, and they do quite well over time. They might face the same hurdles as everyone, but they're not doing the knee jerk reaction. And I think that's really smart.
I think that's a luxury that some of us have. I think that unfortunately, there are you make bad decisions when your back is to the wall, and you aren't able to make the right decision because of cash flow, because of different business constraints. I think that if you have the luxury to be able to be prudent on the decisions that you make and to think about the consequences for the long term, I think you're in a wonderful position.
Yeah. So I guess the goal is to get there, right? Somehow you're there already.
Uh,
You're a midterm to long term thinker
yeah,
from
we
what I know.
always have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah.
We always have been. We always have been. I mean, I can tell you that during COVID, in those few months, the when COVID shut down in March, when we didn't have any one of our accounts sending us money on payments that were due, and our sales stopped. And we talked about this. Member of YPO, and we get on these calls every day with business leaders in our community, and it didn't matter whether you had a business that's in the billions or whether you had a business of in the tens of thousands. All of us had a runway of cash. Some of
Yeah.
us had 2 weeks of cash, and some of us had 6 months of cash, and nobody knew when the world would open up again. And it was a very scary time for a lot of people because there was constraints that needed to happen. And I think that during that time you were really able to measure your leadership style, because I'm sure even in your position, you had some of your vendors call you up screaming for money that they need. And then you had some vendors who said, you know what, we are in it together. We understand of what's going on, and we're here to help as best we can. And you measure people in those times, right? In terms of in those times where the pressure is unbearable. But that's where you see your true
It's like
partner.
your character comes out,
100%.
when you're pressed.
100%.
And we all need
100%.
that. We all need to know, okay, well, what are my limitations? It's kind of good to get pressed like that. But yeah, it
But
all
who
comes
but
out.
who can you lean on, right? Like
Yeah.
business is all about relationships. Um, that's at least our philosophy around it. It's not about the next sale. It's about the relationships that you have upstream and downstream, your relationship with your customers, your relationship with your vendors, and in critical times where people feel under pressure, who can you lean on in terms of your family, right? These are your professional family.
Yeah, that's so wise. And for me personally, I would say that my favorite part of my job is my relationships. Probably one of my top favorite parts of the job. Also, you got to have fashion jewelry is really fun to look at and beautiful diamonds. But that's probably one of my favorite parts. And we all go through it together. I mean, we all go through the fire together. And we all survive together if we can, or help each other survive if we can, and it makes it fun. And I think that's what makes our industry really unique, because it is a small industry. And like you were saying at the start, it's a small industry. There's a small group of people, and it's very hard to get into because you don't hear it advertised at college campuses. You know what I mean? A lot of times it's just word of mouth, or you're born into it, like one of the two, or you fell into it. And so it's a small community, but it's really fun to be a part of.
I think, as much as this is kitschy, I do think it's great that we are in an industry where we are actually able to celebrate people's moments in their life, right? We are there servicing all the happy moments in their life, and we get to celebrate those with them, whether it's the birth of their children or graduation of their child from university or high school, or birthdays or anniversaries. Like I think it's, if you take a step back and recognize that you're involved in celebrating people's happy moments in their life, and that jewelry and diamonds is still a gift of love, and a gift of adoration, then it makes you feel good, right? Like we're not in the plumbing
It does.
business.
No, we're not. We're not.
We-
We're not. We're not divorce attorneys.
no, we're
We
not
could be
divorced.
divorce attorneys, but I would
Yeah.
be. Oh man, I'd be the worst. I'd be like, I don't want to hear your problems. I got enough of my own.
Yeah. Yeah. Or imagine all day long you're solving people's fits, like in
Forget
their.
it.
It's not. You can't go home happy there.
Not that there's anything against those jobs, but it's just for me, for my
No.
wiring, it's not quite. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. I'm keeping you a little long here, but you got a lot
It's
going
my
on.
pleasure.
Can you talk a little bit about synthetics? You sell natural diamonds. That's your business. Can you
Correct.
talk a little bit about synthetics, and what from your perspective, how do you feel like synthetics fit in the market? Is there a
So
place for synthetic diamonds in the market, and what is your opinion on them?
I think it all goes back to um, being transparent with your customer. Do I think there's a place? Yeah, I think there's a place. I think that if we continue to say that synthetics are not going to be something that will be around for a while, I think that we may not be honest with ourselves. It seems that lab grown business is growing. That's a fact. It seems like today's customers, today's consumers, for those synthetic lab grown diamonds, they don't seem to care so much for the long term value of that diamond. I think that it's important for us to explain to them that this gem is going to continually decrease in price and doesn't have a resale value. And if you're okay with that, then God bless you.
Yeah.
But I think that it's come to a market. I think it's come to an equilibrium uh, where you have consumers that are looking for diamonds that last forever, that they can pass on from generation to generation, and that, something of a store of wealth. And there's that level, which is sort of the real luxury market, if I can say that. And then you have the lab grown or synthetic marketplace, which is a much lower price point. It's much more, shiny and big, but it has no store of wealth whatsoever, and it's a depreciating asset. I think also, and for the sake of transparency, I think that a lot of retailers went into this because the margins on synthetics were just so high in comparison to natural. Natural diamonds, it's not an industry where there is
It's not
tremendous
a high
margin.
margin. Yeah.
And retailers got into it um, for the short term, kind of like what we talked about
Yeah.
before, for the short term, in order to make those much higher margins. And I think that there are also some retailers who weren't being fully disclosure, or didn't provide full disclosure to their customers, which is even worse in
Yeah.
my mind. And so I don't mind the business itself. I think that it's a wonderful technological advancement, but I think that we need to be very honest with our consumers to say, hey, this is not a finite commodity that is precious, and the world only has so much of it, and it's
It's a
tremendous
natural
amount of
mineral.
work that brings
Yeah.
it out of the ground. This stuff is made in a device that's like a microwave oven that every 35 days produces a diamond that we cut and polish. And as the years go by, there'll be more and more and more and more of it, and because of that, the price of it will continuously drop. And you know if they're okay with it, then it's really not a competitive product to diamonds anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not even the same thing in my mind. I also think, sorry, just one more thing. I also think that it's important to note that there are some places where lab grown doesn't fit. Like, for instance, in Melly or small diamonds, the cost to manufacture those diamonds is more than the cost of the actual material. And so in Melly diamonds, it doesn't make sense to
Well,
use
then how
lab.
come you see Melly Diamonds sliding into finished goods that are not natural?
So those diamonds, in the past 3 years, there's been huge advancements in the growth of
Okay.
lab grown. In the past, they were able to grow diamonds of 30 pointer or 40 pointer that can only be cut into a 10-point synthetic diamond. Today, they grow diamonds of 6, 7, 10, 12 carat rough
Got it.
that gets you a 1 to 3 carat polished diamond. Now, what they do, and I bet you don't even know this, what they do is they don't grow small diamonds to make Melly. They take a 10 carat diamond and they chop it up like a chopped salad to make Melly. Did you know that?
Is that not a correct way of cutting a diamond? Is that why you called it chopped salad?
No, but you know what? They take this 10 carat diamond and they make like 40 little diamonds out of it,
Wow.
which is
But do you?
which is
Is
go
it more
ahead.
economical? Is it going to become less economical to do that though, based on what you were saying earlier, or no?
Yes, because the cost to manufacture it is more than the cost to manufacture a natural, which actually just comes out of the ground as small.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yep. Yeah.
the labor to take a big block and make into 40 little diamonds is much higher than the labor to take a small diamond and polish it into a natural polished diamond that's just melly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, Itai, and that's actually refreshing to hear, to be honest. One thing the way that I thought about synthetics when they first came out, and I've actually had the same guiding principle since they first hit the market, is I believe we already know the synthetic path based on the synthetic path of the emerald and the ruby and the sapphire. And
100%.
so I've never from the start thought that it was any different than the synthetic emerald, ruby, and sapphire, of which the demand is not really that high. After the years and years and years they've been on the market. So that's kind of been my guiding principle from the beginning. I've never thought they were going to take over the scene at all. But I
I
don't
think
know.
I think they'll have a place, just like we had Mesonite come and go, and
Moissanite?
there's Moissanite, Masonite, Canadian tomato,
Yeah.
tomato. I think that they'll find their place. I hope, and I truly believe that natural diamonds stay sort of the gift of love, and natural
Yeah.
diamonds stay the value forever. And I think that if you're looking to invest in, or not invest, but if you're looking to give a gift of diamond that you want to be in your family for, many years to come, I think that you're making a short-term decision over a long-term decision, whether you give a
I will
lab grown.
I will tell you what happened to me, and I don't want to be specific at all, but I was at an event, rock concert, which was awesome, and I was chatting with some people, and of course you're a jeweler, so everyone says, "Hey, what do you think?" Especially people that get newly engaged, they want to show you, "Hey, what do you think of the ring?" Of course, I'm always going to say it's amazing. I'm never going to be critical of a new engagement ring that's not from my store. I don't know. So I'm always like, hey, it's great. I'm celebrating the relationship and happy for them. And anyways, long story short, he says, well, what do you think about the ring? And I said, I think it's great. And he says, well, it's not a natural. I bought it for it's, and I'm like, okay, well, good. And he says, I bought it for $8,000 in New York, and it was a fancy shape that was probably a carat at best. And I was just thinking, I feel like that's not okay for people to sell something that high a price.
Well, that's the thing, right? We talked about this a second ago. Like, I think that people got into it for the wrong reasons. They got into it because of the huge margins that they're able to make. I think that consumers walking into your store, Rick, are coming in because they want an experience, and they want to be educated, and they want to understand you're the expert in the room. Otherwise, they can go online and they can think themselves as being the expert. And, honestly, I do not have any issue with someone, after understanding all of the criteria of lab grown, to make a decision into lab grown and buy that 1 carat diamond for $2,000 retail, which is probably the
Yeah,
acceptable
that
retail
sounds
price for
right.
that diamond,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, if that's a decision you want to make, and you want to buy a lab grown diamond for $2,000 that we cannot predict what that value of it is going to be in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, versus a natural that's probably going to cost you $10,000 but will hold its value for a much longer period of time. If that's a decision you want to make and you're okay with it, you know, your job as a retailer, because you're relationship driven, is to educate that consumer, explain to him the consequences and the value of what it is that they're buying, and then give him the very best you can in order to get a customer for life. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
But I think it's super wrong for retailers to go into this industry to, I don't want to use the word defraud, but it's if you are selling a product and you're
It's
not being
dishonest. It's
100%,
dishonest. It's a little
you're not being
dishonest. Yeah,
100% honest
yeah,
with what it is, I have a real issue with that.
yeah.
That's the same thing as I have an issue with people selling, diamonds with EGL certificates that are, not being honest with, the colors and clarities of those diamonds. Or like, you
You know
have to
what?
be
You know what I
honest.
was told about EGL? You want to hear the funniest thing? I was
Let
on
me
the
hear it.
phone with a diamond wholesaler who's trying to sell me EGL, and he says, "Hey Rick, you should buy these EGLs. They're not that bad." And I said, I don't really trust the grades on those, so I don't sell those to my customers. And he says, "Listen, I want to explain EGL to you." I said, "Okay, explain EGL to me." He goes, "It's a different language." He's like, "You speak English. This is French. You just have to learn the different language, and it works just fine." And I'm like, "That's your explanation? I gotta learn a different language? Like, this doesn't make sense to me."
I lost them at the "it's not so bad." like like we're in we're in the business of, luxury, and you're not going to go into
It's not so bad.
yeah, you're not going to go into your
It's
Ferrari
not so bad.
dealership and say, "Hey, you should buy these Ferraris. They're not so bad. It's not. It's like the same car, but with a sticker that says Ferrari on it. But when they were made in the back of our shop, they're not so bad. Like, what's wrong with people?
It's a different language. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah, it goes back to your values. Like, you need to be proud every day you wake up that what you are selling, you are confident with, and that you're not trying to peddle stuff. Like, people need to really. Well, I guess it speaks to the fact that I think that some people should not be in our industry.
Yeah,
Like,
it hurts our industry.
yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you, what do you think
and
about?
all those different languages has hurt our industry, right?
Yeah, we got to speak the same language. That's for starters.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, what do you think about certs going to synthetics, like from labs, gem labs? Like, do you have any problems with that at all in terms of them receiving the same certificate as a diamond? Maybe with a little extra.
I think I think the labs went into it for the sake of making money. I think that a GIA certificate is going to cost you $100 a carat, and those labs are there to get the business. If you ask me, my honest opinion is that I don't think that lab grown diamonds should be graded to the same standard of natural diamonds, because natural diamonds, there's a different value on the diamond based on its rarity, right? Color, clarity, size. And we know today, for instance, that a collection color diamond, a D color, E color diamond, is super rare, right? It's less than 3% of diamonds in the world are DEF color. And the reason they're priced so high is because you send them to an independent laboratory. They tell you that it's a DEF color. It's very rare to find, and that is why they're more expensive, because it's a very rare article. Lab grown diamonds are not rare. And today they seem to be very good with their secret sauce to be able to grow DEF colors. And so when you have a marketplace today which is selling lab growns under the same premise of Rappaport and the wholesale diamond system against a product that is not related to it at all, that is where the issue is. Like, if you ask me, I'm perfectly fine with the labs accepting the diamonds, grading them as lab grown diamonds, so that so it's not a moissanite, or it's not anything else. But I think that we need to give it a grading standard that's different to natural, because why are you know what I mean? Like, now it's not the same. It's not the same premise. It's not the same rarity.
It should be just like a 1, 2, 3. Well, this is a natural diamond. It gets a grade of 1, 2, or so we could go back to the old school days before D, E, and F. We could do A, B, and C. And this is an A diamond. This is a B synthetic.
Because it has nothing to do with it, right? The grading standards of a color and clarity are all based on rarity. They're all based on rarity.
With science, you're going to have everything D internally flawless in 5 years, anyways.
100%.
My guess.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
100%.
And the other thing too, I worry about a little bit is labor. So if we're all short on labor, and we're grading things that are maybe not as valuable, I think that's something to look at, because we all have to protect our industry. Gems are real minerals, and they're rare, and they hold up. There's a definition. They're durable. They're rare. They hold up over time. They hold their value. And when we start saying, well, this is kind of the same, let's grade it the same, I think we're getting sometimes I think we get a little off track, but who Who knows?
I totally agree. I think we're saying the same thing, that
Yeah.
we need to provide some kind of third party assurance to the consumer of what it is that they're getting, but they shouldn't be getting the same thing as for a natural diamond because it's not under the same characteristics.
Yeah. Well, Itai, I've taken a ton of your time today, and this has been an amazing conversation.
I super appreciate it. I'd like to be invited again.
You will be invited again, sir. You're a good friend of mine, and you're going to be on here. You know it. So
Yeah,
it was great catching up, and I think we learned a lot from you today in terms of the industry. It's really nice to see behind the scenes because we don't get to hear too much about these types of things. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being open, and I really respect your leadership. I want you to know that, and thank you for doing a great job, man. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, Rick. And I can't say enough good things about what I think about you and your team and your store. And I just consider it a real privilege to be a good friend. So
Me too.
I thank you for that.
Well, hold down Canada for us, will you?
We will.
All right.
We will.
We'll see you later.
Talk to you soon. Have a great weekend.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.